So, um, it's a big thing going on for everyone all around the world. Trying to learn how to speak up, um, and not let things just go, um, because afraid of causing a problem or trying to deal with it on your own. Um, they Yesterday morning, I found out there was a local murder suicide situation, and a man had killed a woman and then committed suicide. And don't really want to speak to all of that. What I found out about it. But it's a dynamic that's going on. People are that disrupted and that hurt, turn around and hurt other people. A lot of them do, and I'm just finding out that I'm different in the fact, I'm like a certain type of person, whatever group that does not lash out when we're in pain or we get attacked. We actually lash inward and then punish ourselves when our body takes over to defend us. Um, so, like, when I couldn't handle it anymore because it turns out my bones were being broken as a child, I would lash out or my arm would fling out. And I would instantly feel terrible that I lost control and I hit somebody. I didn't know my bones were breaking back then. I didn't know my organs were already failing. I didn't realize I was in so much danger from getting hit, even actually just like kids on the playground. Um, I survived. I don't know why. It's cool and not cool. Trying to make things be cool, and that's why I'm speaking up because I finally realized I wouldn't admit a certain danger to myself until I heard about this situation from a friend, and suddenly realized I wouldn't admit to myself what's going on. So, um, yeah. I've posted some pictures of some texts I've been getting from someone that I actually know, and it's I was doing it as an example of trying to expose somebody who's terrorizing me, really, and it's there's a lot more to it than that. He's got a, and I want to be clear, like this isn't a stranger. This is somebody that's been around me for like 15 years now because he's friends with the person I'm divorcing right now. Um, I didn't know I had a pattern of domestic violence my whole life that I never escaped because I didn't know I was born into it. And I didn't understand the many shapes it could take. And I didn't understand how it actually happens from friends too, or, that was what was going on sometimes with teachers or um, coaches or, authority figures, doctors, things like that. They were always overriding me. They would never listen. And I'm just finding out that I'm highly autistic, Asperger's and Tourette's, and then I'm learning that now that I'm trying to talk differently and finding more actual, like real trauma specialists and recovery specialists, that I am one of those people that's been so traumatized that I don't know that I've been talking about things that traumatize other people until they blow up at me, and then I don't actually even recognize what's happened until recently. Um, I'm learning a lot. All of a sudden, things have clarified for me. My pattern recognition is off the charts, and I didn't realize that's what I do. That's what I've always done. That's what's in my artwork. That's what's in everything. I didn't know what I was doing. It was just a thing. I'm now finally coming out of basically a 15-year isolation and looking around the world and looking at artwork and tattoos and different things. I'm like, all the stuff I've ever done or envisioned, it's everywhere now. And now I need to speak to the pattern. I just realized I'm in. So this guy, acted like he was one of my best friends because he was best friends with my husband, and I didn't realize it's a network of toxicity and misogyny that I didn't understand was around me because I didn't understand what I was raised in. And it's like, and there's so much of it that's unconscious, that's passed down, and you just absorb because that's what was taught and modeled to you, because that's what was taught and modeled to them. So this guy has a long history of having some really horrific relationships, and he always blames the women for it. And I've actually ended up knowing most of his exes, even though I coincidentally had started making friends with a girl that he had dated before I ever met any of them. And then I did the thing where I was getting nervous about people like getting upset with each other, so I disengaged from her because I was starting to hang out with the guy that I ended up getting married to. And I didn't understand that I get fetishized, especially by people like my husband and his friends that really like Japanese culture, especially around anime, especially around their teenage years of watching, the bootleg ones all around rape. And I didn't understand my experience in this country. I didn't understand the way people look at me and the way guys, why I would get nervous around certain guys, or just, yeah. I didn't know I was surrounded by it for 15 years. And now that things have become like they are, and I have found out I am epileptic, and a lot of my health problems are worse than anybody ever thought. Uh, and as I'm learning all this and I'm becoming fully awake, because apparently I was born awake, I'm awakening to the patterns that uh, I couldn't see yet. And he has a pattern of his own, and I didn't understand he's such a predator. He's actually got a charge of rape, and he played it off as if, she lied because, she got back together with her boyfriend, but he was married at the time, and he, justified that by feeling, well, I was so disconnected from her, and I was like so upset. But that's the thing, is like there was always an excuse and always a justification, and I didn't know like why I would always feel a certain way, and like why I wouldn't say anything. It was because my husband would be sitting right there acting like none of this is a problem. And it's a problem of believing people's words and not really observing their actions, or telling yourself that their actions must mean something else to convince yourself that your feelings aren't true because everyone else told you not to do it. So I've always tried to defend other things, because it's actually not me trying to, I just do it. It gets me into trouble a lot. It's actually gotten me physically attacked. But that's the thing, is like I can't stop myself. It's never a plan, it just happens. And I deal with it because it's not okay. And I didn't realize this because I didn't know I needed to defend myself. So my body takes over at times, it turns out. But I this guy had a situation aside from that whole rape thing. He has a pattern of uh, getting with women, getting really caught up in it, acting like he's really hurt, goes out, sleeps with somebody else. He usually messes up that girl's life too, and like this whole chaotic thing. And the studying, I'm actually terrified right now. And I'm having trouble, but trying to do it anyways. At one point he got suicidal and he had gotten a shotgun, and then this way he tells it was that he was so upset and he was sitting there with it, and his wife came into the room, saw him with the gun, and then, without a word, just left the room, just walked right out on me. And the thing was, he did discharge the weapon, but I guess it misfired. And then when he moved it, then it went off, so it didn't actually work. But he'd then been telling everyone how she would have been, an accessory to, like, I don't know, suicide or manslaughter or something. I don't know, for not saying anything. But I now realize it's because she was in shock and her body got her out of the room, because that was going to be a murder suicide situation. Because I have seen that look in his eyes. Because I finally saw that look in my husband's eyes during the beginning of Shelter in Place. And I now realize what it is. It is the need to destroy. And I know she feared for her life. I know a lot about the life she had. Insane trauma, insane sexual abuse, insane torture and neglect from her own family members. And he added to it. And I didn't realize. That's why, like, her and I probably always connected really well. And why we always disconnected when the guys got kind of weird. Because they all act like they respect women. And then I realized their behavior shows clearly that they don't. So he moved back into town a couple of years ago after that incident. And I happened to know that he'd been trying to sneak around and, like, get a hold of another gun. To the point of, like, trying to make, like, purchase from, like, friends who are, like, coming to visit from, like, out of state for other reasons, because they had no idea, like, why he would want a gun. They were just like, oh, well, like, yeah, sure, why not? Thinking that he's, like, sane, and he's not. So that was, like, I found out he had been trying to get another gun, like, at this point, like, maybe a year ago, maybe a little bit more. I've been not in physical contact around this person since just after my healing ceremony at the beginning of March. And he got cut off from my husband. He finally told him, like, after everything had already been destroyed anyways, my husband stopped hanging out with him. And I'm guessing his ex-wife that he continues to torture has possibly cut him off too. But he has been texting me as if there are multiple people watching me, watching my social media, and saying, like, laughing at me, basically, like, yeah, go ahead and, like, lie about all this, you narcissistic bitch. Because he set me off, and, like, when I didn't have outside confirmation of the seizures yet, I intuited an aura before I even read about what they were. And I could feel one coming on because of what he was talking about was so upsetting. And I now realize also I am an energy worker, something. Didn't know I've been doing this my whole life. Finally got attuned to Reiki, like, several months after that incident with him initially. And so I was put into a paralysis state, because of what he was talking about was so bad. And because the seizures were starting, and nobody knows what my seizures look like, and my husband was just denying that I was having seizures in front of him for like a month. So this guy, he is trying to terrorize me. He has a very certain pattern of speaking, and the words he chooses in those texts are meant to hurt and meant to bother me. And now he's acting like he's all sympathetic. Like, now he just, he's trying to help me by telling me to stop being, like, such, a whatever, like, hobo, aspiring to nothing. Like, I don't even know. He's a raging alcoholic that nobody will make him go to rehab. He will polish off, like, a full bottle. I don't even know what they call it, like a handle or something. He'll polish one off in, like, an afternoon or a night, whatever. And he looks really functional when he's been drinking that much. And that's the thing. I don't. He used to be here all the time. I live alone now. I've been living generally alone since May, while having seizures and having organ failure and all this other stuff that nobody would listen to. All the social services aren't working. I'm not eligible for a ton of things because of weird loopholes and funding and all this stuff. And then people who think I can qualify don't actually help me figure that out, because turns out with the Asperger's and whatever else, I can't answer questions on paperwork, because I see each word like a spectrum. And so I see one question and I can see, like, I don't know, at least 20 different questions. And since I know this is a gateway or like a block, whatever, a hoop I've got to jump to qualify for something, I know it's important, but and I want to be honest and I want to be very clear, but there's so many ways to answer that, especially depending on what it is, why they're asking. And I didn't know why I would freak out doing paperwork. So I've been trying to tell people for years that I need help with this. And I still don't even have a disability status in like all this other stuff, like everything. Everyone, nobody understood. Like I wasn't actually getting help. People weren't actually going with me. Everyone thought other people were helping because they knew I have trouble talking, always have. And I know that there's nothing that's shown up in text from this guy to illustrate his history and the fact that he's been trying to find a gun, and I don't know if he did find one or not. But I know he's angry. I know he blames me for a lot. I know he's doing that really twisted thing where he acts now like he cares about me. So in terms of what I'm learning about like pattern recognition and like education and stuff, this is a really, really scary narcissistic abuse cycle, and it's escalating, and it's so I can't tell if he's gonna show up here. I don't know if he's gonna go after his ex. I don't know. All I know is that he's spinning out, and I didn't understand because I hadn't watched the right or didn't watch those videos yet. What happens if you cut off a narcissist from their supply or whatever, and it initiates this blowback? So I got some help. I did actually find somebody to pass on the phone number to someone else, and so that those texts stop. But that means that if he's got feels like I shut him off from that, he's gonna try and find another way around because of all the other people that found ways to get back in touch with me and to like bitch me out some more about shit that I didn't actually do. Um, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm terrified to talk to the cops. I've had a really weird history with cops my whole life, and I was actually nobody understood. I was actually taught to specifically not talk to people like that. But then like things that did happen to me in like throughout my life, I do not get treated well, and I'm terrified, and I don't actually know how to talk to people in person really, because or even through the phone when it's live. Emotions come out that I don't know that I'm conveying, and even when I feel like I'm calm, they flip out at me, and they get me off track, and I don't know what's going on anymore, and I'm just trying to say like there's a pattern here, and I can name it now, and I I'm finally learning how to see what's been going on around me, and I've been trying to take care of my health. My organs are failing. I was born with a failing liver, and I'm learning how the racism really affects me like way more than I ever thought, because part of the toxic network around me kept telling me that I'm lucky that I passed for white, but that it's really cool that, you know, oh, but you're Japanese, so like you get all these like cool things, but like they wouldn't acknowledge all the awful things that come with that. And it's I'm realizing it's my skin, this yellowish tone that was always like laughed off in the family about, you know, like, oh, of course she looks yellow, she's half Japanese. But I'm the only one in the family that's like this color. And the way I get really dark in the sun, I'm this light because I spend so much time inside, partly for my agoraphobia that certain people understand and that other people just completely don't. Um, it's just I've been on the verge of like dying to an accident because you know, everything just exploding on the inside. It turns out I stay alive. I've always been in pain, and I also have learned I am one of those people that don't even flinch when they break bones. Finally started proving that on accident at the skate park, and I'm now discovering an awareness of something that sits below like the ache that I can't explain. that always moves around my abdomen. I now know why I couldn't stop myself from lashing out when the hits would hit certain areas. I was defending my life. And now I'm realizing the way I need to defend my life is to speak up. I don't know how to make this report. I don't know how to coordinate with an advocate, especially with the quarantine situation or the shelter in place, and especially since it just got reinstated. Like, nobody understands. They always make me explain before I do the next thing, and like nobody understands my explanations because they'll ask me questions they don't understand my answers because I didn't realize, like, I think so far ahead and I process so quick. I'm answering like where they're leading, and then they tell me I didn't answer their question because they don't realize I saw the end of it. So like I'm realizing it's actually as shitty as it is sitting alone trying to talk like this, as hard as it is for me to stay on track or be whatever, at least I'm only dealing with my own emotions right now. I'm not dealing with the reactions that I'm inducing or initiating in the people who hear me. I get so distressed when I feel them getting agitated because I frequently don't understand like why they're getting so agitated, and that's part of the dissociation from like not understanding my situation. And so it makes me afraid to talk about my situation because every time I start to, people freak out, and then I have to like, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to take care of this on my own then because she didn't understand, and now you're freaking out, and now you've got to take care of yourself. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to go back and do this thing now because somebody's got to. I guess it's got to be me. So I really don't want to have to survive gunshot wounds. I have actually had a fear of dying to gunfire most of my life, and I'm really not going to go into that history right now. But there was reasons that it was going to come up, and I don't want anything to happen to his ex. I don't want anything to happen to like anyone who just stands in his way. So like the murder suicide that just happened, she was just in his way at the time, and he took that as such rejection of his like reality that he lashed out with a gun because he was that activated by everything being out to get him because he had been in so much pain and he could only feel the attacks. He didn't realize he was attacking back. And this is, I'm speaking dynamically. I'm just purposely not going into any details. But that's the whole thing. And it's just people around him could see him declining, but they didn't know what to do either. And the thing is, like, they probably also knew they couldn't really describe the situation to the police. And another, place, like, would just maybe just institutionalize them and then pump them full of, like, other weird meds. So, like, that's the thing. Like, what do you do? So people just, like, don't say anything. They just get by the best they can because they know they can't get outside help. And that's the thing. Why isn't there any outside help? I'm terrified that if he shows up here, because during the shelter in place period between April and May, I was, because of the behavior in the household, with just me and my husband, I got apparently pushed into emitting primal screams. And it happened really frequently for about a month. To the extent that the windows rattled and the walls actually started to shake because I could hear picture frames skittering on the walls when I was screaming. And it wouldn't stop. And I wasn't even shredding my throat. The crying and screaming would only stop because all of a sudden everything was shut off with, I suppose, mucus, and suddenly I was completely suffocating and all airways would be shut off, and that would be the only reason why I could stop. Nobody came to help. Nobody came to check up on me. I know it could be heard outside this house, and I live in a neighborhood of fairly close houses. Nobody came to check on me. Nobody called the cops. Nobody called for help. Nobody asked the next day. Nobody really even actually looks at me. Um, so I know if this guy does show up, there's no reason to think that anyone's going to come to help. And I have just no real trust for the security services in this town, between what's happened from cops, detective even, and different security guards from medical facilities, and what people have done because Asian and China virus times. Thank you. But I'm tired of trying to hint at to people why it's not good that I'm living alone right now. I shouldn't have to say all of this stuff, because actually just the fact that I'm having seizures should have qualified me to, get some help here. But the social services around that, I would have had to have been diagnosed with these things that I just got diagnosed for and not even assessed for yet. Should have been diagnosed before the age of 18. I'm 38. Those things didn't exist when I was 18. Not as far as like people knew here. Certainly not the funding and all that. So I get by the best that I can. And I get yelled at a lot by people who are worried about me. And nobody actually offers real help. Some people do, and that is great. And what they are able to offer is very limited, and I understand why. And I'm grateful for the help at all, truly. And then there's a ton of people that don't realize their help is not a help at all. They're adding to the things I need to do, and then they're throwing judgment and accusations and just bullshit at me for not being able to do everything perfectly on my own. They actually shout at me because they're upset that no one else is helping. I was like, that's not helping me to have you upset that I'm not getting help, and then not offering help, and then shouting because you're in distress. And that now all of a sudden you need to go, and you can't talk to me for a while because you've got to now take care of yourself because you're so stressed out. I'm like, so you called me because you're worried about me, yelled at me that I'm not doing it right, and now you're yelling at me that you've got to go because I've upset you because I won't take care of myself properly. And I'm on every level trying not to die. I finally stopped myself from trying to commit suicide all the time, or planning it, or envisioning ways to make accidents happen. I want to live. I want to be free. I want to do all the cool things that turns out I'm good at because I didn't understand I'm really talented. That's how bad the brainwashing was, that they don't know that they did. It is what it is. I'm learning that now. I'm trying to move on, and every step of the way I'm like the malicious divorce, now I'm being painted out to be the abuser. I don't want to have a madman show up with a fucking gun at my house. Does anyone know what to do? I don't. So I'm just going to put this out there and hope that whatever happens to me, maybe people will talk about this so that it doesn't happen to somebody else. So please, good luck, everyone. I'm going to do the best I can. Thanks for watching, if you did.